So yeah, so getting outdoors.
Yep.
What I think, as I said at the start, for FINDRA, it's what I'm trying to kind of get across, which is really important, is that it's not about going the furthest or being the fastest. If that's what you want to do, that's absolutely fantastic and brilliant. So not sort of saying that's not what we support all of that.
Yeah.
But I think it can be quite hard. We've talked about how hard it can be to take that first step and to get outdoors.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think it also changes as you go through life as well.
Yeah,
like I think
definitely.
different things come into play. Like I remember when I was little, like I'd be outdoors all the time. Like I just wouldn't think of it as like that's just what you do, right?
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have family. My family are from Ireland, so I used to go over there all the time. And one of my nanas had a bit of forest, woodland connected to them. So I just off on my own, wandering through the woods like all the time, playing make believe.
Yeah.
And I was mad into Enid Blyton's famous Five. So I used to like go and like pretend to set up camp and like fake kind of pretend fires for pretend cooking and stuff. I did actually nab a pan out of my nan's house once and try to build a little tripod of sticks to suspend it over.
Brilliant.
Didn't actually set fire to anything.
No.
And so I used to sort of love playing outdoors.
Yes.
And then as I got older, like I kind of got into, I always thought I wasn't into sport, but then it turned out actually I did like things like snowboarding was what I was originally into, mountain sports. And then I think got into cycling. And I feel like I maybe got a bit caught up in the industry that I was working in. I went off cycling.
So what happened there?
I think lots of people I worked with were lovely, but everybody I worked with they were pretty much all like ex-pros or really amazing riders. Like they were really high level. And I'm a bit out of practice now, but at that point I was a decent rider. I was okay, but I wasn't going to be like riding the jump line at Bike Park Wales or anything like that. So I felt very much like, what am I doing here? Like am I good enough at riding to be in this industry, rather than like is my writing good enough, is my journalism good enough, are my ideas good enough? It felt almost like, probably just to me, that almost like that maybe didn't matter,
because I absolutely get that. I completely get that, because when I started FINDRA because I got into mountain biking, absolutely loved it, went to get some kit, couldn't find it, and wanted to create kit for these amazing women that I biked with, but I always felt that I was a bit of a fraud, so I had like the imposter syndrome. So even though I had, in terms of like designing product and the experience that I had in the industry was 20 plus years, that bit was fine, and that's a bit like you saying you didn't criticise yourself in terms of your writing. I wasn't being hard on myself in terms of my creativity. I just felt I am okay at riding my bike, but I don't do all that crazy technical stuff. I'll do little bits, and sometimes I'll be okay, and sometimes I'll be absolutely awful. And how would anyone take me seriously because I don't have that background as a pro rider or a particularly good rider? But I loved riding my bike.
It's interesting, isn't it, though, that we kind of have, like, we both from very different like sort of backgrounds and experiences, both have that kind of like shared kind of perception of what's happening. And I don't know whether that's like, I'm sure some of it's come from me. I don't know how much of it's come from like external factors. There's definitely, sort of a visibility element in terms of like, if you're a woman working in the bike industry, you are a bit more visible than
because there's not many of you.
There's not many of us.
That makes it
more
difficult.
now though, which is fantastic. But it sort of, it just made me, talking about sort of enjoying the outdoors, like I sort of started second guessing my experience and enjoyment of it. Like, and it became less, isn't this fun? And it became more like, am I riding well enough? And that's never
that's
been
awful, isn't it? And so I think living in the Tweed Valley, there's a real sense of that, or I certainly felt a real sort of sense of that here. And we've touched on this a little bit, that here I again, is it my own expectations, or is it what I think, that whole thing around where is it coming from? Is it from within, or is it external, or is it a combination? So, here there's a feeling like if you go ride your bike, you've got to be really good because, all these gnarly trails around, and people that ride the bikes here are really good technical riders, and I always felt quite inhibited by that, and that kind of fed into how I approached the design of products for FINDRA, actually, because we don't heavily brand our products, and that is very deliberate because I don't want to define anyone, you know, and whereas here, like, you'll see certain big brands and like all over the garments and everything like that, and I just think if I was to wear one of them, I feel that other people would have an expectation of who I am and how I would perform, and I really didn't want that, and so I didn't want someone to put on a garment that I'd designed and feel like there was any expectation on them other than what they wanted to create themselves. So I think like living here feels like a little bit of a bubble. But it's interesting that you're saying even within right in the industry you felt that. And is that something to do with us being female? Is it to do with the limited amount of, we don't see enough of ourselves?
Like, it's so hard to say because obviously I can only speak from my experience and maybe sort of like the experience of some of the other people that I've like worked with or talked with about this. Like, I know a few other women have felt the same, but then I don't know also whether it's about the areas that I was working in and what was valued within that, because actually, we were talking about this earlier, like most people aren't riding the like there's a lot of people who can do it, but most people just
walk down on their
bikes, and actually that's totally fine. And so in many ways, in fact, actually it was kind of, I would argue, beneficial to have someone representing that perspective and experience,
because that's a much bigger proportion of the people that will ride their bikes will be people like us that, I mean, just want to get out there and enjoy being outdoors. We're talking about bikes a lot, but I mean that could be paddleboarding, or it could be snowboarding, or it could be, hill walking. You don't always have to climb a Monroe. You can just go out locally and climb the hill near you, or go for a long walk. So I think, and it's funny how we both talked about how, because when I was young, I lived in a very sort of urban area. So we didn't have a lot of nature around us, but I was outdoors all the time. And I remember from the moment I learned to ride my bike, I would just be off, and I would be riding around the streets, but I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I think that as we get older, we lose that childlike joy of being outdoors and feeling free and that liberation. Certainly when I get out my bike, it comes back to me, that sense of freedom and liberation. And I think that's the other thing about being outdoors, there is this sense of freedom, which I think is really lovely.
Like, one of my favourite things, like, so obviously it's wet and it can be really hard to motivate yourself out at the moment, but God, I love riding through puddles on my bike. It's just like, because when else as a grown-up are you allowed to go out and get completely muddy and wet? Like,
it's brilliant. That is
fun.
So fun.
It's legitimate sport. It's totally,
absolutely.
It's pastime.
You're allowed. In fact, getting a bit of mud in your face is the best feeling.
It's good moisturiser.
Yeah.
Clay masks.
Absolutely.
Mud freckles are the best. And it's that sort of playfulness with it. I think one of the things that's always stuck with me that sort of people have talked about is that sort of idea of, going out for a big thing can feel like a challenge, and then one of the people I think is absolutely brilliant, Vicky Balfour. She talks about pockets of adventure.
Amazing.
And I just love that idea. It's like just grab a little pocket of adventure. Doesn't need to be a huge
big thing. No, and that was one of the really good sort of upsides of COVID. I think people suddenly realised that on their doorstep they could have these little mini adventures. And how incredible that they became so aware of, going back to that, you're talking about that thing of cycling and how you suddenly see the world from a different perspective. The fact that we couldn't go far meant that we walked out our front door and found a way to, get outdoors for half an hour and look around us and look up and hear the noises and smell the sort of smells, and I think that for me is very similar to what Vicky talks about in these pockets of adventure.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a whole big production.
Yeah.
But it can fill you with so much joy.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we talk about with discover your outdoor spirit. It's that sort of spirited approach to it.
Yeah.
Big or small. How do you discover that within yourself?
Yeah.
How do we embrace
you find
that?
it?
Yeah.
And what does it mean for you? It's like finding it for yourself as well. Because I think, again, like I think I like trying lots of stuff. I think also I used to feel like I have to just be good at one thing. I'm not even that good. I've given up on being bothered about being good. I actually just really like trying
Well,
lots
what
of
does being
stuff.
good mean?
Well, this is the thing, like, but do you know what, I don't know whether it's because, and I don't know whether it's a, sort of a UK thing, because obviously I've never lived anywhere else.
Yeah.
But, and this is a strange analogy, bear with me. So my family are Irish, they're all into music.
Yeah.
And so lots of my childhood Christmases, there'd be a traditional session going on. So you come down to the kitchen, there'd be like just a load of musicians playing.
That would be amazing.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And everyone would contribute something. So like, Aoife sings a song, and my mum would be like, go on, Aoife, sing a song.
That'd be my worst nightmare, but anyway.
Quite like singing. I don't know how good I am, but like whether anyone else liked me singing. And it was more like, you were contributing something by taking part. You're bringing something in. Yeah. Rather than, I feel like quite often, maybe in the UK, it feels like if you're singing, it's because you think you're good, and it's a performance thing. So like you do things because you're good, rather than, it's just my.
And do you think that means you have like?
But I think that means that well, I know for me it's meant that I feel like I don't necessarily want to do things unless I can be good at it. But then I'm missing out on like
absolutely
loads
you've got
of
to
stuff.
try stuff.
Yeah.
And see how it goes.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy it, you might never be great at it, or you could be kind of okay at it. But if you get, what do you get out of it?
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
what matters.
What does good mean? Like, and I think that's different for everybody.
But I think we can beat ourselves up a lot about this stuff, because I know that from biking, mountain biking, you can feel like you're making progress, and then if you don't get out for a few weeks, which might turn into a month, and then you go back, you're starting again.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you start to beat yourself up, and you think, oh, I am no good at this.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than always take it. It can be quite hard to bring yourself back to, why am I here and what is it that I love about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're I think that's where we're possibly not very good at that.
I'm not.
No.
I need to work on that. But I think what's changed now as well that I've found, like, is there seems to be more, and I'd say this is maybe like the upside of like social media and sort of the digital content realm, is that I think more and more it's becoming more accepted, and it's easier to find other people who aren't being stopped by that. So it feels like, okay, I can be a beginner. I could learn to skateboard in my like 40s or 50s if I wanted to.
Joe Mosley, skateboard,
like
which
how cool is that?
Really cool,
because like, well, why not? Like, why not try and surf?
Well,
like, I'm not going to be winning any competitions, but I was never going to win any competitions.
And so, do we create those boundaries around ourselves? We probably do.
I think there's a combination of like what we put on ourselves and kind of societal expectation, which I think is changing, thankfully. Yeah.
How do you see that changing? What do you think?
I just feel like there's more visibility of people trying different things. Like, so I'm encountering like was it Women on Boards? It's one of the organisations that's about kind of getting more women into board sports.
Amazing.
And they've been running, like, they ran a open session, I can't remember the name of the venue, but in Glasgow, and they have like a women's session, and you can go along and try skateboarding or BMXing, and I'm like, I would totally love to do that. Yeah. I would completely break myself. But so that there's more visibility of that, but there's also more people setting stuff like that up and welcoming people in. So it feels like,
really good.
If you want to try something, the chances are
there's something out there that you can link in with or connect with to give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like actually, all these things that seemed maybe, or like also because of the internet as well. Like when I was younger, I remember we didn't have the internet because I'm that old. But like finding out how to do anything or where to do anything, or even that certain things existed at all.
Yeah.
You had to sort of know someone.
Definitely.
And now it's much easier to encounter stuff and then find out information about it, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because like, just think of all the things you could
there's
try.
so many things that you could be doing. I mean, where I lived, as I say, was very urban. But we had someone who took youth groups and would take us out on sort of long walks, like kind of, you know, hill walking, and took us rock climbing, abseiling, all of that sort of thing. Yeah. So that was our person that kind of introduced us, and if we didn't have that person, I was the youngest of 5, and my parents were great parents, but they didn't necessarily kind of set all that up. I'm a child of the 70s, had to get on with it. Got chucked out, and then you come back when the street lights go on or whatever. But now people are a lot more exposed to it, and so I think that's why it feels okay to try it at whatever age.
Yeah, do different things. It's interesting as well, because I was looking up some stats on like sort of women getting outdoors earlier, and one of the pieces of research, Women in the Hills Research Network, was saying that women make up only 35% of general outdoors, people who do general outdoors activities, and only 20% of mountain sports. And I think the numbers are fairly similar for mountain biking. I think, I'm not sure the breakdown for sort of other sort of more, you know, sort of hill walking.
It'll probably be quite similar.
And it's interesting that, you know, the numbers are lower, and I know that there are specific barriers and things that women face in that, you know, in some of the things, you know, busy schedules is one of the things we've talked about before. Like, would you say that you've encountered any particular barriers, or like?
I think, I mean, you touched on earlier about how, you know, your approach or how you experience being active or getting outdoors changes with age, and certainly when my kids were younger, I mean, I was very like, you know, into the outdoors and active right up until teenage years, went off to study, and you come away from it. It didn't, you know, I wasn't getting outdoors as much, and then was drawn to it again as I kind of finished up university, and drawn to coming back here to live, and then had kids, so that then meant my time was quite limited. But of course you can get out with them. So, you know, that's where it would change to getting out for walks, and maybe shorter little spells outdoors.
Pockets of adventure.
Pockets of adventure for sure. And then as I've got older, and my kids are now, you know, the youngest is 20, the oldest is 27, so I now can have that time for me again. But then I started a business, which became like, you know, my 4th child. So I started a business to encourage more people to get outdoors, and stopped getting outdoors because I got engrossed in my business. And so the last year or so, myself and Rosie, my partner, have been trying very hard to make sure we get away and get outdoors and get that time that we really need and want. So I think you've always got to make the effort to fit it in. You've always got to make the effort to do it, and you've got to make the effort to fit it into your life. I don't think it's easy, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, no, totally. I think for me, one of the biggest barriers, certainly lately as well, is sort of mental health related. So it's interesting because I know that, like, so I have anxiety and depression, and I know that getting out makes me feel better. So like I have like various physical manifestations of that, and like I have a breathing thing that sometimes comes on when I'm anxious, and just being outside, even if I'm not like doing anything mad, like just walking to the top of the hill across the road, makes me feel better.
So much better.
But I also sometimes find it really hard to get out when I'm like that, because it just feels like there's so many things in the way, like, oh, I don't know where my shoes are, I don't know where my jacket is, I don't know, like, what's the temperature outside, what am I going to wear, like,
you put all of those barriers up. I think we all can do that. And how do you overcome that? Or
so remembering that I will feel better when I'm outside, also taking the pressure off it, like not saying like, oh, I'm gonna go and do this big thing. It's like, just go out and cross the road, and then like come back if you want to after that point. You've been outside, but usually by the time I've crossed the road, I'll go a bit further. And then also like removing some of those barriers. So for example, trying to make sure that I wear stuff I could go out in. So if I've got you know, my leggings and a jumper on, then all I have to do is put my shoes on, and then I'm out the door.
So it's trying to minimise those things that could get in the way.
Yeah.
And is that obviously is quite conscious, you've got to consciously kind of make that effort.
Yeah, but I think the more I do it, hopefully, the less of a big thing it becomes, because it just becomes, you know, you just do it after a while. And I don't know whether that's partly related to like the COVID years and sort of be, you know, and I work from home mostly, so I'm like inside all the time.
I think that must be quite hard actually, because you can just get into a way of putting it off. Yeah. And you know, before you know it, the days pass, the weeks pass, the months pass. Yeah. And you're not kind of giving yourself that time that you probably really would benefit. Well, not probably, you would really benefit from. But you're right there. It's sort of just remembering, like, this is going to be good, and like you know, and giving myself time to. So I've sort of been going to some well-being sessions at the health centre, and it's one of the things that's been really good is because I always feel like I need to be doing something productive so bad, and like they've been saying, like, no, do something for you and try very hard not to feel guilty about it. And I think that quite often is quite hard. I think for a lot of, absolutely, you know, I can only speak from my experience as a woman, but like, but again, if you're a woman, if you're working, if you've got childcare responsibilities, to have that time for yourself, it's hard to give yourself. It's quite hard to give yourself that. I agree, absolutely. One of the things that I've been trying to do is to get home. At a good time, not stay at work. For, you know, until 8 o'clock at night. That, you know, try and get home for like 6. 6:30 at the latest. I also try and leave my laptop in my office. That's good, because I know then I can't be tempted to. And it's so tempting. Very tempting. I'm just going to check my emails. Or there was something that I wanted to do. And you know, because what will happen is if I went through a phase where I'd done that. You know, come home, get something to eat, and then sit down and open it up again, and then that, I just need to check something, is 2 hours later before you're like shutting the thing, and then I need to kind of try and unwind a bit. So, but what I've found is that I find it quite hard to then, so if I come home early, have something to eat, I find it hard to just say, that's it, I'm not going to do anything else tonight. I don't feel that I can just sit down. And I don't know why. I don't know if it comes from, you know, when I had kids, like you were on the go until like maybe 9 o'clock, and they went to bed. So it feels like 9 o'clock's the allowed time to unwind. Interesting. Not sure what that's all about, but who knows? But I think that's the other thing as well. Like, it takes time to change, you know, your thought patterns as well. Absolutely. Like I think that's something that maybe I'm getting now from a different approach to sort of getting outdoors and like finding my outdoor spirit. Is that there's no pressure. Like, I don't have to be doing a big thing. I don't have to be like riding bike parks. Like, if I'm getting something, a nice feeling out of this, then that's it. That's what really, you know, anything else is a bonus. But that's what I'm looking for. And that's a good point to open it up to some questions. That's a very good point. We've got loads in. Should we take turns? You go for it. Okay. Well, so we've got Kerry Maxwell. She said she spoke last time. She runs every day 6 miles. Fair play. 6 miles for her mental health. You watch your fundraising videos. I love your outdoor videos. They're an inspiration. Oh, thank you, Kerry. Thank you so much. And I think we were down in Dumfries recently, and we went too far from you, I think. But we didn't get a chance to meet up. We went biking, but didn't meet Kerry. But anyway, thank you. And that's an interesting point actually as well, because you know, you've got your inspiration wall there, and sort of that idea of FINDRA being, you know, and it's embodied in this space as well. That it's not just about providing kits. That's obviously part of it, but there's a whole kind of other holistic, I guess, kind of approach to it. Like, it's the community. So you know, like our mission statement is to empower more women to lead an active lifestyle, and how we do that is by, you know, creating great products that make women feel comfortable, but it also performs and it's stylish. But whilst also building a really motivational and inspirational community, and that comes from many people like yourself. People that surround, and I mean that, you know, because I know there's a lot of people that are inspired by you, and while you're probably giving yourself a hard time for getting out, you're a great inspiration to people. And I don't think that we realise that in general that we can all inspire each other in a way that doesn't have to be award winning or just showing everyone doing those little things. Is really important, and I think really empowering. So that's really important to me, that we build that community, and that we support each other.
I think and that also sort of, you know, we're talking about sort of overcoming barriers, and I think sometimes a friend or a group of friends or a group of people to be like, come along out with us. That has so much power.
It's so important, and
helping others
and
out.
I think once you get out with a group, you realise this is fun, but there can be a lot of barriers. You know, we've done a few social rides and things, and what I've really recognised is when we've gone out and we've been, you know, cycling and chatting, the number of women that will say, oh, I really, you know, I wasn't sure if I should come, and I was kind of not going to come, and then I wanted to come but I wasn't going to come, and you're so grateful that they've took that step and they've came, and then can see we're all kind of in the same boat, we're all thinking the same, we're all quite of the same mindset, and that together you get a lot from just being together and going, well, we all think the same, and you felt that too. Oh, right, that's good, you know. It's not great that you felt that, but it's good that
no, but I think more people
can relate to it.
realise, like, I think you can often feel like you're the only person that feels a certain way, and you get anxious about joining groups. I know I totally do get anxious about joining groups and stuff, but you get there, and usually, more often than not, like, people are great.
People
like,
are just most of the time you will find what I kind of say, you'll find your tribe. So that's the thing that's really important, is to feel like I feel comfortable here. And that kind of leads on to the next question, which is, do you have any advice on facing the imposter syndrome when you are out mountain biking? I tend to avoid groups when I'm out on my bike, so that kind of I've kind of answered that a little bit. And I think the imposter syndrome thing, I definitely felt that way for sure, but I think it's about stepping back and not comparing yourself to others, or not thinking that because you can't do this or that, or, you know, that you're therefore not good enough. It's about you're there doing it. That's an incredible step in itself. And you know, you've maybe just not found your group if you don't like going with groups, because I get that as well. But as I say, when we've done social rides, I feel like the women there definitely feel that they're with the right tribe, and that we can all relate to each other. So it can take a bit of time. But you can get so much more from it. But it's about not being as hard on yourself, I think, and not comparing yourself to others, and being better at acknowledging the little steps that you take that actually are quite big achievements.
And I think the other thing is what, like, sort of linking onto that, like, there are actually loads of, if you want sort of to join a known group where you know what you're kind of getting into a bit, because I know that, you know, if there's quite a lot of, there's an increasing number of groups out there that are really good at saying, you know, like, no, we are about, like, participation, we're not going to drop anybody, we're not doing, like, mad technical stuff, so that you know when you join them that you're going to have a nice time if that's what you're looking for. So, like, New Forest Off-Road Club are really good for that. There's lots of other groups, you know, that are sort of setting up around the country, that, you know, sort of Adventure Queens, Everybody Outdoors, where they intentionally set out to go, if you want to ride or walk or, like, paddle with people, with other women or with other people, like, this is our ethos. So when you come, you know you're going to have a good time.
Which is brilliant. Incredible. And there's lots more of that emerging, which is really, really good. So
love it.
Brilliant.
Let's see what else we've got. Thank you for all the questions and comments and things we've got coming in. Oh, Sarah says that she has the same barriers to getting outside. Sometimes the tool is not available when I need it. Thank you for sharing tips. Oh, thanks, Sarah.
That's brilliant. Great.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's helping. Yes. But again, like, if you've got any advice or tips that you'd like to share with us, like, message us. We'll share those as well for anything, because I know that, like, obviously we can only speak from our experience, and there's other people that have you know, sort of experienced other barriers or might have other advice that can be really, really useful.
I think this is what we want this to be about, isn't it? It's about, you know, being able to share those things, share your experiences, your ups, your downs, and being able to help and support each other to overcome.
Because I think, like, although we've sort of talked about some, I guess, negative experiences in some ways, but fundamentally it comes from the place of we love getting outdoors.
Yeah.
We have brilliant experiences when we're there. We've met wonderful people doing it. And I think this is true of a lot of people. Like, we just want more people to experience that. Like, we just love more people to have a good time outdoors.
And because we know how much it benefits our mental health, as we've talked about, it is so important to feel like you get that perspective and get that space to look after yourself. Yeah. So it's crucial.
Should we see if we've got one more question, I think. Oh yeah, do either of you manage to exercise on dark nights or mornings? Oh gosh, so I don't do well. I don't do well with mornings at the best of times, and I certainly don't do well with dark mornings. I'm about to invest in a Lumi light.
Ooh.
So
I saw this thing.
Mostly because my main issue with mornings is waking up.
Yeah.
So the Lumi light thing is like a daylight synthesizer, and it sort of like gradually gets brighter.
Brilliant.
And you can set the time so it has like a false dawn.
Yeah.
So that's going to be what I'm going to try and use. And then I don't know. I actually quite like going out in the dark. I quite like. Yeah. I've not on my own though. No. So I have a massively overactive imagination. So I will imagine all sorts of. So when I used to live in the Forest of Dean, you'd go out night riding.
I've done that.
And there's loads. There's a lot of wildlife in the Forest of Dean. And so you'd be there with your bike light, and there'd be just these like points of light out in the forest. So I can only do that when I'm with someone. So I'd say, like, maybe go with someone if you're like me and massively fraidy cat.
I loved night riding when I tried it, but that was a long time ago. And I have to say that being a woman of a certain age, once I'm home, that's it. And I get me out the door. Not happening, especially if it's dark. I do exercise in the morning, but I just exercise. I used to go to a kind of early morning gym class. We used to do HIIT, cardio and stuff, and it was brilliant. But oh my God, it was horrific getting out of bed. Horrific. And I think the whole menopause thing for me, the kind of sleep pattern was really messed up. Well, I was telling you earlier, like, I had a terrible night last night. I woke up at 2:15, didn't get back to sleep till 5:15. Alarm was off at 6:15. It's an absolute nightmare. So I've struggled a bit with that, although it has got better. But I'll just do a little half hour at home, just to kind of get me into a more positive frame of mind. Probably should cycle to work a lot more than I do. But my day, sometimes the way it's set up, doesn't always allow for that. But it can be quite challenging in the winter months, dark nights and dark mornings. That can be quite hard. So I feel for anybody that's like trying to overcome that, because I don't think that's easy.
But I think also just make it fun. Like, if you're not enjoying it, switch to something else and try something else for a while. Like,
don't put yourself through.
I mean, do if that's your thing, but like,
don't beat yourself up. Don't.
It's like, I must ride in the rain. Like, just
the more miserable, the better.
No, we're not about miserable. We're about fun,
and
enjoyment, and pleasure. The joy of getting outside.
The joy, discover your outdoor spirit. Even the dark, pouring rain, you might find it.
Well, splashing through puddles. There is like nothing better.
Pure joy.
Or when they get a bit icy on the top. And you go through them and then they crunch, but not when they're solid. But
that's nice sound. That's a nice sound. But it's not if you just go.
No, that's less nice sound. But crunching through icy puddles.
I've had that.
Basically, I'm all about the puddles.
So, Shona, you are making.
We're gonna.
I don't know what that means.
We've got another. Brilliant.
Okay.
Oh, lovely. Oh, I love this. You read it.
Wait to get it. Hold on.
This is a lovely one.
My motto is smiles, not miles. Adventures come in all different shapes and sizes, and as long as it makes you smile, that's all that matters. From Happy Camper Sam.
That's brilliant.
Hi Sam, and
that's brilliant.
I think that is a brilliant statement and a brilliant little sort of sentiment to end.
I love that.
Chat on, because it's so true. And you have a very smiley face, Sam. Definitely. So you definitely do lots of smiles. That's brilliant, isn't it?
I love that. That's kind of smiles, not miles. And pockets of adventure, and discover your outdoor spirit.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Amazing.
Have you got any final
words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom, yeah.
No.
What's your friend? I feel like Discover Your Outdoor Spirit will do this.
I'll go with that, because we might be here for a while.
I know.
As I say, bad night's sleep. I think, have you got anything to finish off?
No, I mean, I think the only thing that I'd say is that, we've talked about some of the groups that are out there. Yeah. So, if anyone is interested in trying something new, there are so many, there's the Adventure Syndicate. Yeah. They're an amazing adventure at the moment if you're looking for inspiration. Adventure Queens, School of Rocks, Miss Adventures locally, which is fantastic. The FNY Collective locally. This Girl Can has got a campaign coming on at the moment called Let's Get Outside, so they've got resources available, everybody outdoors. Yeah. Basically, if there's anything that you're interested in, the chances are there's going to be a great group out there that will facilitate you getting out there. Yeah. In whatever capacity or type of activity you fancy doing. So
absolutely.
Just do it. Yeah. I'm going to try different stuff.
Try it. Yeah. And you'll find someone, or you'll find your tribe that will help you to keep doing it.
Yeah. Have fun. Yeah. Just enjoy yourself.
Enjoy yourself. Cool. Smiles, not miles. Remember that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
We're going to sign off in a moment now. Cool.
And I think we hope to do this again, and we hope that next time round we're going to put some options out there for maybe what you would like us to chat about.
Sounds good. So if you've got any ideas, message in, or sort of add your comments.
Because we want this to be about not just me and you having a good old blether, which is
fun
and we like it, but maybe you can share with what ideas on what you'd like to talk about.
If you've got questions or comments or experiences or topics that you think would be good to explore, then let us know.
Definitely.